The great halls of the Sarath Empire were alive with color, music, and voices. The banners of the royal house stretched high across the shining walls, while crystal lights cast a glow over armored guards and gathered nobles. It was supposed to be a celebration, yet many of the alien nobles whispered among themselves, their sharp eyes fixed on the one who stood at the center of it all, the human. His name was Marcus. He was tall for a human but looked fragile compared to the towering Sarath warriors. His dark hair was neatly tied and his robes were simple, without the ornate armor or glowing jewels that most in the court wore. He stood quietly beside Princess Lyra, who had been forced into this marriage for the sake of peace. Lyra's expression was calm, but her heart was heavy. She had grown up trained as a warrior. Her people respected strength above all else, and she was used to seeing mighty generals and proud knights at her side. Yet now she was bound to a man who looked ordinary, unremarkable, and far too gentle for the life of a Sarath princess. "This is the human the council sends us," a noble hissed to another. "A husband who cannot even hold a blade. The princess deserves better." Marcus heard them, but he said nothing. He did not argue or defend himself. He bowed politely whenever nobles approached, his calmness only making them more certain of his weakness. The queen, Lyra's mother, spoke proudly of the alliance between Earth and Sarath, but her words did little to silence the doubt spreading through the hall. Lyra felt shame rise inside her. She wanted to honor her mother, but every glance at Marcus only deepened her unease. Why had the humans sent him of all people? Surely Earth had warriors of its own, soldiers who could match the pride of Sarath. Instead, they sent this quiet man who seemed to know nothing of battle. After the feast ended, Lyra and Marcus walked together through the palace gardens. The night air was cool, the sky above filled with 3 glowing moons. Flowers of silver and red swayed in the breeze, their scent sharp and sweet. For a long time neither spoke. Finally Lyra broke the silence. "You do not belong here," she said softly. "My people do not respect you. They see you as weak, and I fear they are not wrong." Marcus looked at her with calm brown eyes. "Perhaps they are right," he said. "I am not like your warriors. I was not chosen to impress them." "Then why were you chosen at all?" Lyra demanded. "Why send someone who looks like a scholar, not a soldier? Do you even understand what kind of people we are?" Marcus stopped walking. He looked at the shining towers of the palace, at the guards who stood tall and proud. Then he looked back at Lyra. "I understand more than you think," he said. "Strength comes in many forms. Sometimes it is not the loudest one in the room who carries the greatest burden." Lyra frowned. His words sounded wise, but they also felt empty to her. What did he mean? He offered no proof, no reason for her to believe. She turned away, her frustration growing. Days passed and Marcus remained the same. He attended court meetings, listened more than he spoke, and spent hours studying in the great library. He asked the royal scholars questions about history, strategy, and the stories of old wars long forgotten by most Sarath. The nobles grew restless. "He hides behind books because he fears battle," they sneered. "How can such a man stand beside our princess?" Even the palace guards mocked him in secret. Lyra heard their words and felt her pride sting. She wanted to defend her husband, but she found she could not. She herself had doubts. One evening she confronted him again. "You read old scrolls while our enemies prepare fleets. You bow to those who insult you and smile as if you do not hear. Do you not feel shame? Do you not care that you are seen as weak?" Marcus closed the book in his hands and looked at her. His voice was calm, but there was a weight to it. "Do you believe strength is only in the swing of a sword?" he asked. "Or in the roar of a warrior's voice? Sometimes the strongest man is the one who waits, who listens, who prepares while others rush into battle unready." Lyra wanted to argue, but something in his eyes silenced her. They were not the eyes of a coward. They held something deeper, something she could not name. Still, she shook her head. "Words are not enough. My people need action. They need proof." Marcus gave a small nod. "Then perhaps the time for proof will come." Weeks later, news spread through the empire. Drask, a warlord who ruled a fierce clan beyond Sarath's borders, had begun raiding the outer colonies. His ships were larger, his soldiers brutal and merciless. Already 2 settlements had fallen. Fear spread quickly through the court. The queen gathered her council, and Marcus sat quietly among them. The generals argued over strategies, each shouting louder than the last. Lyra watched Marcus, expecting him to remain silent as always. But instead he leaned forward and asked a simple question. "Where did these raiders strike most often? And what do they leave behind? The council fell silent. No one had thought to ask it so plainly. One by one, the generals answered, realizing the attacks followed a strange pattern. Marcus listened carefully, then gave a small, knowing smile. They are not raiding at random, he said. They are preparing for something larger. They test your borders to learn your weaknesses. The generals exchanged uneasy glances. None had noticed this before. After the meeting, Lyra confronted Marcus once more. How did you see what even our wisest commanders missed? He looked at her quietly. Because I have seen it before. I know the signs of an enemy who does not come only to steal but to conquer. Lyra's heart beat faster. His words carried weight again, but still he offered no explanation. Who was this man? He looked so ordinary, yet he spoke as though he carried the memory of wars long past. That night, as the moons rose over the palace, Lyra sat alone in her chambers. She remembered his calm voice, his steady eyes, and his strange wisdom. She wanted to dismiss him as a weak scholar. Yet doubt had begun to take root in her mind. Perhaps there was more to Marcus than she had believed. She did not know then that her doubts would soon be shattered, and that the quiet human she thought ordinary would one day raise his blade and change the fate of her empire. The empire of Serath had enjoyed peace for many years, but the peace was fragile. Word spread quickly of the warlord Drask and his raids across the border worlds. His fleet struck without mercy, burning colonies, stealing resources, and leaving nothing but ash. Refugees poured into the capital, carrying stories of slaughter and despair. The queen called her council together, and once again the grand hall echoed with raised voices. Generals argued over how to defend the borders. Ministers worried about the economy. Nobles complained about their own lands being threatened. The air was filled with panic and anger. Marcus sat quietly at the edge of the council chamber. His calm presence stood out against the storm of voices. Many ignored him, as they always did. Some sneered, whispering that the human had no right to sit among them, but Marcus only listened, his eyes fixed on the glowing star maps projected in the center of the hall. Princess Lyra sat beside her mother, trying to hide her unease. She had trained for war all her life, yet she felt powerless now. Her marriage to Marcus still weighed heavily on her heart. She wanted to believe there was some hidden reason for it, but every day it seemed clearer that he was only a symbol of alliance, not a true partner in battle. The queen raised her voice, silencing the arguing generals. We must act with care. Drask is no ordinary raider. His power grows with each strike. If we rush to meet him without wisdom, we will lose more than border worlds. We may lose the empire itself. The council grew silent. It was true. No commander had yet found a plan to stop Drask's rising tide. Then Marcus spoke. His voice was quiet but firm. You are fighting shadows instead of substance. You plan for each raid as if it is separate, but you do not see the pattern. Drask is building towards something larger. Many heads turned. Some nobles laughed. And what would a human know of war? One of them scoffed. You hide in books while warriors bleed. Marcus did not rise to anger. He only pointed at the map. Look at where he strikes. Each raid weakens your supply lines. Each colony he destroys is one you would rely on in war. He is not only stealing, he is shaping the battlefield for what comes next. The generals frowned. None had spoken of it in that way before. Murmurs filled the chamber. The queen studied Marcus with sharp eyes. And what do you believe comes next? She asked. Marcus's gaze was steady. Invasion. He will not stop at raids. He prepares to break through and march upon the heart of your empire. The chamber fell into uneasy silence. The thought chilled them all. After the council ended, Lyra followed Marcus into the palace gardens. She walked quickly, her long stride matching his calm pace. You speak as though you know this warlord's mind, she said. Yet you have never faced him. You have never faced any battle in this empire. How can you be so sure? Marcus paused beneath a tree with silver leaves. The moons cast pale light across his face. Because I have seen men like him before, he answered quietly. Not in your empire, but in wars my own people have fought. Power-hungry leaders always follow the same path. First they test, then they weaken, then they strike. Lyra crossed her arms. You speak with certainty, but words are not weapons. My people will not follow you for your calm voice. They will only follow strength. Marcus nodded. I know. She stared at him, searching his face for some sign of who he truly was. But he remained a mystery. He never raised his voice, never showed pride, and never revealed the full truth of his past. It unsettled her more than she cared to admit. Days passed and the Empire's situation grew worse. Drask's fleet struck another world, this time closer to the capital. The reports told of devastating losses. The Serath armies were brave, but the enemy ships outnumbered them. Every victory Drask claimed added more to his strength. The capital grew tense. Merchants spoke in hushed voices, afraid of what was to come. Soldiers trained harder, their faces grim, and through it all Marcus remained the same. He continued to study the maps, to read the old scrolls in the library, and to ask quiet questions of anyone who had seen the enemy firsthand. The nobles whispered louder now. "The human is useless," they said. "He watches while the Empire falls. He hides behind books while true warriors fight." Lyra heard their words. Shame burned inside her. She had once thought the same, but now she was torn. Marcus did not seem weak. He seemed patient, as if he waited for a moment no one else could see. One evening, she found him again in the library. Scrolls were spread before him, old writings of ancient wars. He looked up as she entered, his calm gaze meeting hers. "You seek answers in paper and ink while fire consumes our worlds," she said bitterly. "Do you not feel anger? Do you not feel fear?" Marcus closed the scroll and stood. His voice was quiet, but it carried across the chamber. "Of course I feel anger. Of course I feel fear. But I do not let them rule me. They are tools, not masters." Lyra shook her head. "You speak like a philosopher, not a warrior." A faint smile touched his lips. "Perhaps I am both." Before she could reply, a messenger burst into the library, his armor scorched from battle. He dropped to one knee before the princess. "Your Highness," he gasped, "the outer defenses of the capital are under attack. Drask's forces are here." Lyra felt her blood run cold. The enemy had come faster than anyone expected. She rushed toward the war chambers, the messenger close behind. But when she glanced back, she saw Marcus following at a calm pace, his face unchanged. The palace erupted into chaos. Soldiers ran to their posts, alarms rang through the city, and the skies filled with streaks of fire as enemy ships descended. The Serath prepared for desperate battle. In the war chamber, generals shouted orders, but panic was clear in their eyes. The queen stood tall, her voice commanding, but even she could not hide the weight of fear. Princess Lyra's heart raced. This was no distant raid. This was war at their gates. And through it all, Marcus stood silently at the edge of the chamber. He watched as strategies were drawn, as soldiers rushed into formation. His calmness was so out of place that Lyra wanted to shake him. Yet she also felt an odd pull, as if some part of him had been waiting for this very moment. The battle began, and the Empire trembled. The skies above the capital burned with fire as Drask's fleet descended. The once calm city now shook under the roar of engines and explosions. Smoke rose from the outer walls, and the screams of soldiers filled the air. The Serath warriors were skilled, but the enemy was relentless. Each attack seemed more precise than the last. Princess Lyra stood on the balcony of the royal palace, her golden armor reflecting the light of the burning horizon. Her heart pounded as she watched the enemy ships strike. Soldiers below fought bravely, but the waves of Drask's forces were too strong. Panic threatened to overtake her, and for the first time she felt true fear. "Your Highness," a guard shouted. "The gates are about to fall. We cannot hold them much longer." Lyra's hands tightened around the railing. She knew they could not withstand the onslaught with sheer strength alone. She looked down at Marcus, who had calmly followed her to the balcony. He was still unarmed, standing quietly observing the battlefield. "Do you have a plan?" she demanded, her voice sharp but tinged with desperation. Marcus did not rush to answer. He studied the movements of the enemy, the positions of the defenders, and the flow of the battle. His eyes moved quickly, calculating paths and patterns. After a long moment he spoke, his voice calm and certain. "They will break through here, but not there," he said, pointing to a weak section of the wall. "If we move the defense forces to cover this point and create a trap here, we can stop them." Lyra frowned. "And if we fail?" He met her gaze. "Then we learn and try again. But we will not fail if we act with knowledge, not panic." Lyra hesitated. She wanted to trust him, yet she still doubted. Marcus looked ordinary, fragile even, but his words carried authority. Slowly she nodded and ordered her generals to follow his directions. The nobles murmured in protest, but the princess's command carried the weight of royalty. The soldiers repositioned themselves as Marcus instructed. The enemy struck again, and the traps they had set began to work. Explosions erupted in unexpected places, and enemy ships crashed into the traps. Confusion spread among Drask's ranks, giving the defenders a moment of advantage. Lyra's heart leapt with hope, but it was short-lived. The enemy adjusted quickly, pressing harder against the walls. The battle was far from over. From the balcony, she saw a group of elite enemy warriors approaching the palace gates. These were not ordinary soldiers. They moved with precision, their weapons cutting through Sarath defenders with terrifying skill. Panic rose among the guards. Lyra felt her chest tighten. She wanted to run to the war chamber, to the safety of the queen and her soldiers, but she knew she could not abandon the palace. It was her duty to stand with her people. "Marcus," she called, her voice trembling slightly. "We cannot stop them. There are too many." Marcus stepped forward, and for the first time Lyra noticed the object at his side. It was a blade unlike any she had seen before. The hilt was simple, worn from years of use, but the edge seemed to hum with an unseen power. He drew it slowly, effortlessly, and the moonlight reflected off the polished steel. The court froze. Soldiers and nobles alike stared. Lyra could not believe what she saw. Marcus, the quiet human she had thought ordinary, was about to face elite warriors armed with weapons that could crush him in moments. "Stay behind me," he said calmly. "I will hold them." Lyra felt a surge of panic. "You cannot fight them alone," she shouted. "You will die." He shook his head, his expression unchanging. "I will not die today. Watch carefully." With a single step, Marcus moved forward. He did not rush or charge recklessly. Instead, he advanced with careful precision, his eyes tracking every movement of the enemy. The elite warriors struck first, their blades clashing with the air, seeking to test him. Then Marcus struck. The movement was fluid, faster than any Sarath soldier could have imagined. His blade danced, blocking attacks, deflecting weapons, and striking with deadly accuracy. Every move was measured, every step calculated. The soldiers watching could hardly believe their eyes. One by one, the elite warriors fell back, unable to match his skill. Some tried to regroup, but Marcus anticipated their actions, cutting off escape routes and disarming opponents without hesitation. Princess Lyra's breath caught in her throat. This was the human she had married, the one she had doubted. Yet now, standing before her, he was not ordinary. He was a master of combat, a force she had never imagined existed. "How is this possible?" she whispered. "He is human." A guard beside her shook his head. "I have never seen such skill," he said. "No Sarath warrior could fight like that." Marcus continued his assault, his calm demeanor never breaking. He moved with the precision of someone who had trained for decades, someone who had faced countless battles. Each strike sent a message to the enemy. They would not win here. The elite warriors, once confident and fierce, began to retreat, their morale shattered by a single human wielding a simple blade. The palace gates were secure, at least for the moment. Lyra felt her heart fill with awe and relief. She realized now that she had been wrong. Marcus was not ordinary. He had hidden his true skill, waiting for the moment it was needed most. He had observed, calculated, and now he was acting with perfect timing. As the last enemy warrior fell, Marcus turned toward her. He sheathed his blade with a smooth motion, as if nothing had happened. The calm in his eyes returned, the quiet demeanor she had always known. Lyra rushed to him, unable to contain her amazement. "Marcus," she said, her voice shaking, You are not ordinary. You are incredible." He gave a small nod, his expression humble. "I only did what needed to be done," he said quietly. The soldiers around them looked on in disbelief. Some bowed, others whispered prayers of thanks. The queen herself approached, her eyes wide with astonishment. "Marcus," she said, "you have saved the palace. You have saved the empire." He bowed respectfully. "I did what I could. The battle is not over, Your Majesty. Drask will not stop here." Lyra felt a mixture of pride and awe. The man she had once doubted, the quiet husband she had thought ordinary, had revealed a strength beyond imagination. She realized now that appearances could be deceiving. The calm, polite human beside her had the heart and skill of a warrior unmatched by any Sarath soldier. That night, the city was quiet for the first time since the attack began. Fires burned in the distance, but the palace stood firm. Soldiers tended to the wounded, and the people whispered Marcus's name in awe. Princess Lyra walked beside him through the moonlit gardens. She no longer saw him as ordinary. He had faced the impossible and prevailed. She looked at him with new eyes, a mixture of respect and wonder filling her heart. Marcus, she said softly, I was wrong about you. I thought you were weak, but you are stronger than anyone I have ever known. He looked at her with calm eyes, the same steady gaze that had always unnerved her. Strength is not always shown in the way others expect, he said. Sometimes it is quiet, hidden until the right moment comes. Lyra nodded. She understood now. She had judged him too quickly, measured him against standards that did not apply. Marcus had shown her a different kind of power, one that combined patience, intelligence, and skill. As they walked together, the moons reflected off the silver leaves of the trees. The battle was over for now, but Lyra knew it was only the beginning. Drask would return, stronger and more determined. Yet she no longer feared what was to come. With Marcus at her side, she felt a new sense of hope and confidence. The human she had married was no ordinary man. He was a warrior in his own right, a protector, and a force that could change the course of the Empire. Lyra could not imagine facing the next battle without him. And somewhere deep inside her, she knew that the greatest challenges were still ahead, but she was ready to face them, not just as a princess, but as someone who had discovered the extraordinary within the ordinary. The stars shone above, silent witnesses to the quiet human who had risen, the one who had changed the fate of a people and begun to rewrite the story of the Empire. The sun rose over the capital of Serath, painting the sky in red and gold. The city was quiet, but the tension lingered. Drask's attack had been repelled, but the Empire remained on edge. Soldiers patrolled the streets, civilians whispered anxiously, and the royal court began preparing for the possibility of another strike. Princess Lyra sat in her chambers, her golden armor polished and laid aside. She could not stop thinking about the events of the night before. The calm human she had married had faced elite warriors alone and emerged victorious. Her heart still raced at the memory of his movements, precise and deadly. How could someone so ordinary in appearance possess such skill? Marcus entered quietly, carrying a small satchel. He smiled at her, a gentle, calm expression that still seemed at odds with what she had witnessed. You look thoughtful, he said softly. I am, she replied. I cannot stop thinking about what you did. How is it possible? Who are you, really? Marcus hesitated for a moment, then set the satchel down. You are curious about who I am, he said. It is time you knew the truth. Lyra leaned forward. I deserve the truth. I was wrong about you before. I need to understand why you are so different from everyone else. Marcus nodded. Very well. I am more than a simple envoy from Earth. I come from a long line of warriors who have protected our people across the stars. My training began when I was a child. I have faced battles that most humans would never imagine. The blade you saw is not just a weapon. It is a relic of my order, passed down through generations. Lyra's eyes widened. A human order? I thought humans were mostly explorers and diplomats. You mean there are warriors like you? He nodded. There are humans who have trained for centuries, learning to survive in conditions far harsher than this galaxy. We fight with skill, strategy, and discipline. Not every battle is won by strength alone. Many are won by patience, observation, and understanding one's enemy. That is what you saw last night. Lyra struggled to comprehend. So all this time you were hiding this? You let everyone think you were weak? Marcus smiled faintly. I am not here to show off. I do not need the approval of anyone. I acted only when it was necessary to protect your people. The rest of the time I observed, learned, and waited. My strength has value only when it can make a difference. She shook her head in disbelief. I cannot believe I misjudged you. I thought you were ordinary, and you were extraordinary all along. He reached out and took her hand gently. Appearances can be deceiving. Sometimes the quietest person carries the greatest power. That is why I waited. That is why I acted only when the moment came. Outside the palace, preparations continued for Drask's next attack. Lyra and Marcus walked together to the council chamber. Soldiers reported that scouts had detected enemy movement in nearby sectors. It was clear that Drask would strike again, but now Lyra felt a new confidence. When they entered the chamber, generals and nobles turned to see them. Marcus stepped forward, his presence commanding attention without any need for arrogance. The council was tense, but there was a sense of hope in the air. The soldiers had witnessed what he could do, and whispers of awe followed him wherever he moved. A general spoke first. Your Highness, the enemy is preparing another fleet. This time they will not wait at the borders. They will strike at the capital directly. What should we do? Marcus studied the star maps again. pointing to the enemy formations. They are predictable. They rely on fear and the assumption that we are weak. If we act strategically, we can turn their strength against them. The generals exchanged glances, unsure of what he meant. Explain, one demanded. He took a deep breath. We will set traps at key points, but we will also use mobility. Small, precise attacks to disrupt their formations while keeping the main forces protected. Our advantage is not only our soldiers, but the knowledge of the terrain and the willingness to adapt quickly. Drask expects brute force. He will not expect careful strategy combined with skillful combat. A murmur of approval passed through the council. Lyra watched him, realizing that every move, every word was calculated. He was not acting on instinct alone. He was using knowledge, experience, and foresight. The queen stepped forward, her voice strong but tinged with admiration. Marcus, you have saved the palace before. Now you are offering strategy to protect the empire itself. I owe you gratitude beyond words. Marcus bowed. I serve the empire because it is just. I fight not for glory but for protection. That is all I need. Lyra felt a warmth in her chest. The human she had once doubted was not only a warrior, but also a protector in the truest sense. He carried no pride, only responsibility. She had underestimated him in every way. That night, Marcus and Lyra walked along the palace walls, looking out at the distant stars. Fires burned in the border colonies, but the capital remained safe for now. Tell me more about your order, Lyra said. I want to understand fully. How did humans become such skilled warriors? Marcus looked thoughtful. Our people faced challenges no one else could survive. We lived on worlds where survival depended on skill, adaptability, and intelligence. We learned to fight not only with weapons, but with our minds. We study history, tactics, and human behavior. We prepare for wars that might never come. That is why I could predict Drask's moves. Lyra shook her head in awe. I thought humans were ordinary. I thought you were ordinary. I was wrong. You are more than anyone could imagine. He smiled gently. Appearances can deceive. I have lived among people who judge strength by size and noise, not by skill or wisdom. Many underestimated us. That is why humans have survived across the stars, often unnoticed until the right moment. She looked at him, a new respect shining in her eyes. I will not doubt you again, she said softly. Not now, not ever. Marcus reached out and touched her hand. I never needed you to believe in me. But now you understand. That is all that matters. The next morning, the city prepared for another possible attack. Scouts reported that Drask's fleet was gathering, but this time Sarath was ready. Soldiers trained under Marcus's guidance, learning tactics that blended alien strength with human strategy. Lyra watched as he instructed them, explaining formations, traps, and points of advantage. The soldiers listened intently, their confidence growing with each lesson. Lyra realized that the Empire had underestimated humans, just as she had underestimated Marcus. Humans were not only resilient, but also intelligent, adaptable, and capable of extraordinary skill. As the day passed, Lyra felt a growing bond with Marcus. She no longer saw him as just her husband or a symbol of alliance. He was her partner, her equal in courage and wisdom. His calm presence inspired those around him, and his hidden strength gave her hope for the battles ahead. At sunset, Marcus stood with her on the palace balcony once more. The city was calm, but the tension was still present. Lyra felt her hand tighten in his. Tomorrow may bring another battle, she said quietly. Marcus nodded. And when it comes, we will face it together. We will not fight blindly. We will fight wisely and with skill. That is the difference between those who survive and those who fall. Lyra looked at him, feeling the weight of his words. She realized that the human she had once thought ordinary was anything but. He carried a legacy, a hidden strength, and a wisdom that could change the fate of her people. For the first time since their marriage, she felt true pride in her husband. She understood now that strength was not always loud, not always visible, and not always recognized immediately. Sometimes it was quiet, hidden, and waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. And Marcus, the human she had once doubted, had revealed that strength at the most critical moment. The stars above shone brightly over the capital, silent witnesses to the hidden truth. Humans were not ordinary. They were cunning, skilled, and powerful in ways that few could understand. Princess Lyra turned to Marcus, her eyes reflecting a mixture of awe and trust. I will follow you, she said. Not because I must, but because I want to. You have shown me what true strength is. Marcus smiled, his calm demeanor unchanged. Then together we will face whatever comes next. The empire will not fall while we stand. That night the palace was quiet but prepared. Soldiers rested with renewed confidence. Nobles whispered of Marcus's skill and wisdom. And Lyra, for the first time, felt certain that the human she had married was more than a partner. He was a hero, a strategist, and a force that could protect not only her but the entire empire. The hidden truth had been revealed, and with it came hope, strength, and the certainty that the coming battles could be won. The city of Sarath was alive with activity at dawn. Soldiers prepared their armor, checked their weapons, and studied the plans Marcus had laid out. The city gates were reinforced, traps were set, and the fleet prepared for battle. Every citizen, noble, and warrior felt the tension in the air. Today they would face Drask's full force, and failure was not an option. Princess Lyra walked beside Marcus through the training grounds. She had spent days observing him, learning how he thought and how he planned. She no longer doubted his skill or wisdom. Every step he took inspired confidence, and the soldiers who trained under him moved with new energy and discipline. "The enemy is strong," Lyra said, her voice steady. "I have seen their ships. They will not hold back," Marcus nodded. "I know, but we have prepared. We have the advantage of knowing their moves before they make them. Drask expects fear, but we will give him strategy. We will give him skill, and we will give him unity." Lyra looked at him, her admiration clear. "And your blade? Will it be enough?" He smiled faintly. "It is not just the blade. It is the mind behind it, the experience and the courage to act when needed. That is what makes it powerful. That is what will change the battle." The first enemy scouts appeared on the horizon. Small ships moved in formation, testing the defenses of Sarath. Soldiers held their positions, waiting for the command. Marcus watched carefully, reading the patterns, anticipating the enemy's moves. The scouts struck, but the traps Marcus had set worked perfectly. Explosions and energy barriers slowed their advance. The Sarath soldiers counterattacked with precision. The enemy faltered, their confidence shaken. Marcus directed the movements calmly, his eyes never leaving the battlefield. Lyra observed him, her heart filled with pride. She realized that Marcus was not just her husband. He was a leader, a warrior, and a strategist who could inspire courage in others. His presence alone made the soldiers stronger. As the morning passed, the full force of Drask's fleet approached. Massive ships armed with weapons that could level entire cities moved in perfect formation. The ground trembled as their engines roared. "Here they come," a general shouted. "We must hold the line." Marcus stepped forward, drawing his blade. The steel gleamed in the morning sun. Soldiers moved to his side instinctively, drawn by his calm authority. Lyra followed, standing beside him in her armor. She felt no fear, only determination. The first wave of enemy warriors landed near the gates. They were elite fighters, stronger and faster than any ordinary soldier. They charged with precision, confident that the defenders would break under their assault. Marcus moved forward to meet them. His movements were fluid, precise, and fast. He struck with skill that left the enemy stunned. Every swing, every parry, and every step was calculated. He did not waste energy. He did not act recklessly. His blade became an extension of his mind. The soldiers around him followed his lead, learning from his actions. Each attack from the enemy was met with strategy. Traps were used efficiently, formations adapted instantly, and the defenders moved as one. The tide of battle began to shift. Lyra watched in awe as Marcus fought. She had trained as a warrior all her life, yet even she could not move with such control and precision. The human she had once thought ordinary had revealed a power that no one had expected. Drask's warriors faltered under Marcus's skill. Some tried to regroup, but he anticipated their every move. His blade moved like lightning, cutting through weapons, disarming enemies, and creating openings for the Sarath soldiers to strike. The enemy commanders realized they had underestimated him. They signaled for retreat, but Marcus had already cut off their path. Every move he made was designed to protect the city while weakening the enemy. From the palace balcony, the queen watched in amazement. "He is not just a human," she said to her advisors. "He is a master of war. The Empire is lucky to have him." Lyra felt her chest swell with pride. She stepped forward and shouted to the soldiers, "Follow him! Trust him. Victory is within our reach." The soldiers, inspired by her words and Marcus's actions, moved with renewed courage. The battle raged on, but the defenders now had the upper hand. Drask's forces, once confident, began to break apart. Finally, Marcus turned his attention to Drask himself. The warlord had landed on the battlefield, massive and terrifying, his armor glowing with power. He drew his own blade, larger and heavier than Marcus's. His eyes were filled with rage and his movements were brutal. Marcus faced him calmly. He did not flinch. He did not show fear. Every step he took was measured. Every strike was calculated. Drask attacked with force, but Marcus anticipated every move. He blocked, parried, and struck with perfect timing. The duel between the human and the warlord became the center of the battlefield. Soldiers and enemies alike paused to watch. Drask was strong and skilled, but Marcus's speed, strategy, and precision were unmatched. Finally, Marcus found an opening. With a swift, precise movement, he disarmed Drask and forced him to his knees. The warlord's army froze, unsure of what to do. Their leader had fallen to a human wielding a simple blade. The Sarath soldiers surged forward, capturing the remaining enemy forces. Drask's fleet retreated, broken and demoralized. The city of Sarath had survived. The Empire was safe thanks to Marcus. Lyra ran to him, her eyes shining. "You did it! You saved the city. You saved the Empire." Marcus sheathed his blade and looked at her calmly. "We did it. Not me alone. Everyone fought with courage and skill. I only guided them." The Queen approached, her face filled with respect. "Marcus, you have proven yourself beyond doubt. You have saved Sarath. You have earned the gratitude of the entire Empire." Marcus bowed. "I only did what was necessary. That is all I seek." Lyra looked at him, her admiration deep. She had thought he was ordinary, a quiet human who could not match her people. Now she understood the truth. He was extraordinary. He was a warrior, a protector, and a hero who had shown that humans were capable of greatness beyond imagination. In the following days, the city recovered. The wounded were tended to, the damaged gates were repaired, and the people celebrated their survival. Marcus continued to instruct the soldiers, preparing them for any future threats. His calm wisdom and hidden skill inspired loyalty and courage in everyone around him. Lyra walked beside him through the palace gardens, the moons reflecting off the silver leaves. She felt a deep respect and love for the human who had changed everything. "You are not just my husband," she said softly. "You are the protector of the Empire. I have never seen anyone like you." Marcus looked at her with his calm, steady gaze. "I am only a human, but humans can do extraordinary things when it matters most. You saw that yesterday." She nodded, understanding now that strength came in many forms. Not all warriors were loud or proud. Some were quiet, patient, and observant, waiting for the right moment to act. Marcus had revealed that strength in a way that no one could forget. The stars above the city shone brightly, silent witnesses to the human who had saved a world. News spread across the Empire of his skill and bravery. Whispers began in neighboring systems about the human who wielded a blade with unmatched skill and guided an entire army to victory. Princess Lyra stood beside Marcus, proud and confident. She had discovered the truth about her husband, and with it came hope for the future. Humans were not ordinary. They were cunning, skillful, and capable of greatness that could change the course of history, and the Empire would never forget the day the quiet human raised his blade and became the hero of Sarath. The story of Marcus spread across the stars, a legend of courage, wisdom, and the power of humanity. Princess Lyra knew that with him by her side, no threat could overwhelm them. Together they would face the future, strong, united, and ready for whatever challenges awaited.